frustration, discontent, and a heightened likelihood of conflict. One example of the relationship between basic needs theory and conflict is crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The DRC, or Democratic Republic of Congo, has experienced years of conflict, and a significant contributing factor is a struggle for control over valuable natural resources like diamonds, gold, and coltan. The exploitation and mismanagement of these resources have resulted in economic inequality, limited access to basic services, and widespread poverty among the population. The lack of basic needs, coupled with the competition for scarce resources, has fueled conflicts involving armed groups, militias, and neighboring countries trying for control over these resources. Another example is the conflict in South-Sudan. The country has experienced prolonged conflict characterized by ethnic divisions, power struggles, and violence. The struggle for political power and dominance has resulted in neglect of basic needs for the population, leading to severe food insecurity and humanitarian crisis. The lack of access to food, clean water, and healthcare has exacerbated tensions and contributed to violence between different ethnic groups and political factions. These examples demonstrate how the deprivation of basic needs can be both cause and a consequence of conflict. When individuals or communities lack access to essential resources, they become more near to grievances, frustration, and the mobilization of violence. Moreover, conflicts themselves disrupt the provision of basic needs, exacerbating the situation and creating a vicious cycle of violence and deprivation. So, understanding the relationship between basic needs theory and conflict is very crucial. It shows or highlights the importance of addressing root causes of conflicts, such as unequal resource distribution and inadequate provision of basic services. It also emphasizes the significance of humanitarian responses and development interventions in addressing the grievances and needs that contribute to conflict. By recognizing the connection between basic needs and conflict, you can contribute to the formulation and implementation of policies, strategies that aim to prevent and mitigate conflicts, promote peace, ensure the fulfillment of basic needs for all individuals and communities fairly. The fourth theory we're going to link conflict and its causes is genetic theory of conflict. The genetic theory of conflict asserts that aggressive behavior and conflict are deeply rooted in human instinct and genetically predetermined. According to this theory, there are unconscious and innate human urges, potential drives, or emotions that give rise to violent behaviors. It suggests that conflict is caused by instinct and is a natural consequence of the internal brain arrangement and hormonal factors. While this theory may have some validity in certain contexts, it is important to approach it critically and consider it within the broader scope of international relations and diplomacy or conflict studies. Political behavior is very complex and is influenced by a wide range of factors, including social, economic, cultural, and institutional aspects. While genetics and instinct may play a role in shaping behavior, they do not provide a comprehensive explanation for conflict. When examining conflict through a political studies or global studies lens or conflict studies, it is crucial to consider the social and political context in which conflicts arise. Conflict is often the result of political grievances, power struggle, inequality, competition for resource, ideological differences, or historical animosities. These factors interact with individual and group identities, institutional structures, and societal norms to shape behavior and conflict dynamics. Another example is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. While the genetic theory of conflict may suggest that this protracted conflict is driven by innate instincts, it is essential to consider the complex political, historical, and territorial factors that contribute to the ongoing tensions. The conflict involves issues of statehood, self-determination, land, and identity, alongside deep-rooted historical narratives and power struggles. These political factors shape the conflict dynamics and cannot be solely attributed to instincts or genetics. So, while the genetic theory of conflict highlights the role of instincts and genetics in shaping human behavior, it is essential to approach this theory critically within the field of international relations or conflict studies. Conflict is a multidimensional phenomenon with various social, political, and structural factors at play. Understanding conflict requires analyzing the political, economic, social, cultural context in which it occurs, in addition to considering the potential influence of genetics and instinctual behavior. So, the theorists in genetic theory state that aggressive behavior is rooted in human instinct and biologically determined. It is genetically programmed into human nature. They state that people are unconscious and innate human urges, innate potential drives, or emotions that create violent behaviors origin genetically. For them, violent brain and conflict are related. So, conflict is caused by instinct. It is the animal instinct of human beings that leads to conflict. According to Galton, conflicting behaviors are dictated by genetics. Conflict is naturally created in the human brain, internal brain arrangement, and due to the hormones. The fifth theory we see as a cause of conflict is frustration, aggression, hypothesis theory. According to this theory, when obstacles are placed in the path of individuals' desires, or when there is a discrepancy or difference between their anticipated and actual satisfaction of needs, frustration builds up and can lead to aggression. It is important for you to analyze this theory in the context of political conflicts and social dynamics. This theory emphasizes the role of dissatisfaction and frustration caused by political, economic, or social factors in fueling aggression and conflict. One example illustrating or showing the frustration-aggression hypothesis is the Arab Spring. In the early 2010s, several countries in the Middle East and North Africa, or in the region which is identified as MENA, experienced popular uprisings against authoritarian regimes. The frustration and dissatisfaction among the citizens were triggered by long-standing political repression, lack of economic opportunities, corruption, and limited political freedoms. The large gap between the aspiration of the people and the reality they were experiencing fueled frustration, leading to widespread protests and, in some cases, violent confrontations. Another example is conflict in Venezuela. The country has been grappling with a deep economic crisis, hyperinflation, widespread poverty, and political instability. The frustration and dissatisfaction among the population have been fueled by the inability to access basic goods, services, and economic stability. This frustration and dissatisfaction among the population have been fueled by the inability to access basic goods, services, and economic stability. This frustration has also led to social unrest, protests, and political polarization, contributing to the ongoing conflict. These examples showcase how frustration and dissatisfaction stemming from political, economic, or social factors can lead to aggression and conflict. It is important for you to recognize the underlying cause of frustration and examine them in the wider context of power dynamics, governance structures, and socioeconomic inequalities. By understanding the frustration-aggression hypothesis theory, you can delve deeper into the root cause of conflict and provide more nuanced analysis. It enables you to explore the factors that generate frustration, both on individual and collective level, and identify potential avenues for conflict resolution, policy reform, or social change. The sixth theory is psychoanalytic theory. In the realm of conflict studies, psychoanalytic theory examines the unconscious desires, egos, and superegos that influence individuals and ultimately shape conflicts. The key concepts of psychoanalytic theory are the following. 1. Unconscious desire. As I said earlier, it examines unconscious desire, egos, and superegos. So, unconscious desires are hidden motivations playing a significant role in political decision-making, influencing policies, and triggering conflict. The ego, or the conscious mind, is about navigating between the desires of the unconscious and the demands of the society. The superego is about the internalized moral compass, reflecting societal norms and values that can either mitigate or escalate conflicts. Let's see some examples of psychoanalytic theory in conflict studies. 1. Mass protests. A group's unconscious desire for change fuels collective action, leading to political demonstrations and potential conflicts. Think you have seen one or many mass protests. Civilians, political parties, and others organize mass protests. The second good example for psychoanalytic theory is political power structure. struggle, when there is unconscious motive that drive politicians' trust for power, resulting in intense struggle and power dynamics within the political system, conflicts can occur. International negotiations can also be a good example of psychoanalytic theory. The unconscious desires and egos of individuals impact diplomatic relations, shaping the outcomes of negotiations and potential conflicts. There are also, on the other hand, there are critics of the psychoanalytic theory. 1. Potential limitation. Some critics argue that the theory's emphasis on the unconscious desires overlooks structural factors and rational decision-making process. 2. Alternative perspective. Other conflict studies theories or international relation theories, such as the rational choice theory, propose different frameworks to analyze conflict and political behavior. The seventh theory we see here is Marxist theory of conflict. They centered their analysis on class relation and economy. For Marxists, political power is rooted in the class system. Politics is the most concentrated form of economy. Class struggle is the heart of power. Politics and economy. The conflict against the exploiting classes just struggle that leads to social revolution.